What company is making the best 6-inch action figure? Let's find out. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We are continuing our conversation about action figures this week. If you didn't watch last week's, it was about O-ring figures and the companies that are making and rebirthing O-ring figures, as we know, from Super 7 and their O-ring license with G.I. Joes to Delta 17 and Skeletron. Please go check that video out. But today we're talking about 6-inch figures. I recently got into 6-inch action figures, mainly from my obsession with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and everything NECA is doing, and then shooting with Bobby of Valaverse and getting some Action Force, which led me to getting some G.I. Joe classifieds, which we'll get into. And then, I don't know if you guys consider these as part of the 6-inch action figures, but the McFarlane Batman the Animated Series line that he's been redoing again for like the third time maybe. I love these. I love this cartoon. It is one of the best cartoons ever made, if not the best cartoon ever made. And so I had to get these. I've gotten every one they've put out so far. These are a little different, and we'll get into that. So this video will cut between me talking about action figures and Bobby giving his expert opinion on why 6-inch action figures are the way they are, and a little bit of how they're made and the choices that go into making a 6-inch action figure.
Articulation is incredibly important. I mean, I think all those are fairly even. You can have great articulation and bad paint, or you can have basic articulation and great paint. But it's more of a preference thing.
Let's get started with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. My first kind of 6-inch action figure that I was extremely excited about was the Super 7 Ultimates Sewer Samurai Leonardo. I got this the day it came out on pre-order. I was super excited about this guy. It took a year and a half to get him in, and then when I got him in, I was just filled with disappointment, mainly because he's a little jiggly guy.
You know, you have like Super 7 figures. They lack so much articulation. They probably lack a bit of paint because they go like animated stuff. So I wouldn't even, like, they're not a good example, like, but what I'm saying is they're a 6-inch figure with lacking articulation.
Outside of that, he still kind of just stands when you put him down, which is kind of nice. But as far as the way he looks, incredible. The paint deco on this is superb. The amount of detail they put in to get this guy exactly like the original Sewer Samurai, it's really cool to see it come to life in a 6-inch scale. Hats off to them. Paint deco is perfect on this. Articulation is hard with figures.
You know, would you rather a highly articulated figure with less paint?
This Samurai paint deco, amazing on these NECA figures. Articulation and posability is kind of rough.
Or a highly painted figure with less articulation. It all depends what you want to do. And
I just wish that wasn't the case. He stands, you can't see it though, but he stands pretty easily. So does the Sewer Samurai, for what it's worth, and all of his jiggliness. Usually you have it more, but like, it doesn't take much to get him to stand. That's pretty impressive. Now you have NECA's Universal Monster line. These are terrible for standing. This guy stands because I keep him in the exact position he needs to, but he's one of the later releases, so overall he's a little bit better. But if you get the Hunchback Leonardo, good luck. April, good luck. They are terrible.
You have almost like a standard of articulation. Like I can't like go backwards and remove some articulation. It's like, now that this is the standard, I can't downgrade. I can't remove the double neck joints now that I've added them in. I can't remove the torso articulation now that I moved it and added it in. There will always be one-offs where a figure will be bulky with armor, so maybe like you don't have a certain articulation at a certain point. You know, it's like Marvel got away with that with not doing double elbows on big guys. I think that was lame. I think you could do double elbows on big figures, but they would go single. You know, but to me, this is the standard. I'm stuck with this now. Can't go backwards.
Again, though, the paint deco, NECA's paint deco is incredible. The amount of detail, the colors they use, I really, really love this green of his shirt. I think that's one of the best shades of green possible. This is such a good figure.
It's easier to take it up a notch with deco than it is articulation. Like you look at, okay, like I think this is an amazing articulation. Jada's doing amazing stuff with the Street Fighter line. Like we get really great range of motion, you know, on our double elbows and double knees on, you know, a $25, $30 figure. Now you look at a Mafex figure, that's that import articulation. You know, it's they have a bit more. I don't think this needs the Mafex level of articulation. I'd rather go higher on the paint now with this standard. But again, it's like articulation, there's only so much articulation you can add to something. Paint, you can go balls to the wall. Washes and oversprays and textures and this and that. Like, you can paint every single part of this figure and, you know, multiple layers and coats and stuff like that. So you could get more expensive with deco than you could with articulation. Eventually, you'll have to stop with the articulation.
Then we've got the Jim Lawson TMNT. These are actually pretty good for posing. They're a little rough, but overall, they do a really good job and are not that hard to stand, and they just look so incredible. They look like they're pulled straight from the comic. I've done several videos on these that you can go back and watch, so I won't bore you with that. But NECA, overall, killing it with the actual look and paint and recreation. Posing and durability is a little rough with these guys.
Back in my Hasbro days, like I would count deco ops when I was designing a figure. But I can look at a figure and know like if something's over. Like if you try to tell me to find the more expensive figure, I could look at the deco like just by eye and figure it out. You know, yeah, when I'm designing, it's kind of tough. I mean, also it's like when you work with factories, some factories will pinch pennies everywhere. They'll charge every little deco they'll charge you. Some factories, if you're doing a figure and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, you know what would look cool? A patch on her vest. Can we add a patch to the vest? Some factory will just do that. You're not adding like ton of deco. It's like, oh, one up, cool. So it all depends on the factory also. I work with 4 different factories and all 4 kind of treat that differently. You know, the Series 5 factory, I added something to a figure. I wasn't charged for it. You know, it's just like the cost is the cost. Like it's one deco op, you know, it's cool. You start getting out of control, they're gonna be like, okay, well that's gonna be a little more.
Let's just get these out of the way. There's not much to them. That falls off a lot. They bend kind of a little bit, really not a lot. One thing that McFarlane has going for him with these is that, again, like NECA, this looks like it came straight out of the cartoon. These are like pulled from the screen perfect. I love that they look exactly like the show. That's why I got them. Mr. Freeze episodes, Batman the Animated Series, some of the best television ever written. Won an Emmy for this first episode, not first or maybe second episode. Look that up. The Mr. Freeze episode won an actual Emmy. Amazing storytelling, amazing design. This Joker, I think it's a DC problem, but he doesn't come with guns. It's really frustrating. I want the big bang gun with my Joker. His flexibility is his legs are a little weird, but that's because he looks exactly like he looks in the cartoon, and I love that so much about these. This entire line looks great. They come with Build-A-Figures, unbelievable line, but I don't think they really are the same as the rest of what we're going to talk about here today, just because they're so different. But I did want to mention them because as far as look, they kill it. Now, the main reason why I decided to do this video is because, as you saw in other videos, I have recently purchased a lot of Alley Vipers, including the G.I. Joe Classifieds Alley Viper. And I like the way he looks. In my opinion, he has kind of this cheap plastic look to him, though. I wish this orange and blue color on him looked more like a NECA orange and blue. Like, you kind of forget that this is plastic, whereas when you look at this, you're like, yeah, this is a plastic doll.
The thing you have to watch out for where deco can add up is on the accessories, like guns and stuff. Like, I never want to just do a solid black gun or a solid color gun or something like that, but you know, you want to put a little bit, like she's got obviously silver on the blades, you want to do that. You know, but her guns were just black, but I have versions where the slides are colored. But you can get really out of control with the deco on guns.
These McFarlane ones, I understand they're at a lower price point and they kind of fit for what they are, but I would have loved more detail in this gun. Overall, though, I think these are great because I love the cartoon and they, again, look like they're ripped from the cartoon. I can't expect to have like the same kind of gun that I do on, you know, like a G.I. Joe. It's got a lot of detail, or even an Action Force gun that's got a lot of detail and this has got 3 different colors on it. That's impressive. This guy's got, you know, 3 different colors because this tan, there's 2 different shades of tan, which just kind of gives it more detail. You know, this Alley Viper, I wish it wasn't just solid black. I wish it had, you know, some silver in it or some gray.
Can I get away with mold color on a lot of stuff? And, you know, you got to be choice with your mold breakdown. Like, obviously the boots are in a different mold than the pants, so that, you know, the boots can be a molded color so that we could spray the armor stuff. So it just comes with experience, having to do it.
So I was really disappointed with the color of it, especially when you get into like this guy. I think has a better overall color and he looks more realistic. But when I got him and opened him, it was just kind of fumbly, just trying to get him to stand and working with him and getting the images right. I'm sorry, I really should lower the camera, but I'm not going to, because it's hard to film yourself. And you guys are going to blow me up in the comments. But guess what? I lit it today, and you all said I filmed the last one in the dark, so beggars can't be choosers. He doesn't stand, though. Like, it's hard to get him to stand. It's hard to get him to do much.
I mostly just stand my guys up on a shelf when I display my stuff. I don't really, like, superpose them out. I've just always been like that. But if you're one of those guys, sure, you probably want more paint. You want your figure to look better, you know? But there are guys that, like, the figure photographers would probably want to go for the more articulation. But to me, they should be even.
Overall, he looks great. He doesn't bend like I want him to bend. But then I looked, he's number like 28 or 34 in the series, and they've done like 170 of them now. So I thought, hey, this is early in the line. I will get something later. I got the Crimson one. He stands a little bit better. He looks a little bit better, as I've noticed. But then I was like, let me get something new. This guy is fairly new. The Techno Viper, I guess. But, like, this is a massive problem. He doesn't do this. His torso is so loose that it is causing, like, it's almost impossible to get this guy to stand now. It's so frustrating. The other problem I have with him is, and I've lost it, but he's got this little holographic thing that sticks in right here, and so you can kind of put it up. If you look in the back of the image, it's like he's supposed to be looking at it, and you can never quite get his face to look at it, and that's annoying. And then he should come with more than one tube because he has more than one connection for a tube to go to these other tools, and he only comes with this one tube. Talking with Generation Joe, he bought 2 of them just so that he'd have 2 tubes. So this is a fairly new one. I bought these 2 off of Generation Joe, and again, you have the same crazy problem. These are so difficult to stand. I had such a problem with standing these, and then this is just so rubbery and bendy and loose and hard to keep on. These are impossible to stand. I'm not even gonna sit here and try to argue with you. These are impossible to stand. I have footage of them standing, but they're impossible to stand. I got my favorite. I got Snow Job. He's all right. It's just articulation on these could be better. This is annoying. And the fact that it's 2? I can imagine if I had the whole line, but I bought 6. So a third of them do that. Animal Warriors of the Kingdom. They make really cool looking figures. There's not much to them. They don't come with a bunch of stuff. They do bend wheel like that. They come with like at tops 3 weapons. This boy will stand in pretty much any position you put him in. Paint deco on these are superb. Always like the way their figures look. Have kept them in a box because I was really just worried that they wouldn't stand, but I'm really happy with the way these stand. He just stood. I love when you can just put a figure down and they stand. How much paint deco do you want to put into it? How much articulation do you want to put into it? I think Action Force, for what it's worth, blow me up in the comments, they're doing a lot better than Classifieds as far as articulation, as far as standing. They come with a little peg stand. Like, none of the Classifieds come with a peg stand. What? That's what G.I. Joe is.
Now it's kind of one of those things where a company will say, all right, well, do we want to keep a price point or do we want to keep an offering? Hasbro back in the day, they wanted to keep a price point, so they would slash articulation or deco or accessories. Nowadays, it seems like you can't really cut from premium stuff, so they raise the prices.
None of the G.I. Joes come with file cards on the back, but Action Force does. And not only that, but the stand has a slot for him. Unreal. This is so good. Why? I know this doesn't go with him. Calm down. Why not, Joe? Why not, Hasbro? I would love to put my file card behind my Snow Job and have a stand for him when he's not on his skis or when he is on his skis. The articulation on, let's say, the Swarm Sentry or the Praetorian, I think is the absolute best. Now, obviously, paint deco, you know, they're not gonna be the same as this. Or look how good he looks. This is so cool. I've put this guy in the coolest positions. I'll just have him on my desk while I'm rendering. And look at that. He just like straight up, just no qualms, super cool position. You can like put it to where he's like using the shield and shooting you. I'm not just saying that because I shoot for Valverse. I shoot for Valverse because they make a good product. I wouldn't have reached out to him if I thought he was making crap. I'll gladly shoot for Animal Warriors of the Kingdom. I'll gladly shoot for McFarlane most days. The other thing is I love the attention to detail with the size when they're going with the Universal line. Like, they could have just given him size that have, you know, they're just like rustic looking, but this one's got like a rat on the end of it. This one's made of bone. They did a really good job of making everything kind of in that Universal Monsters world. That's what I really love about NECA and their paint deco and their style is they really just kind of, they could have given him, you know, they could have reused swords. They didn't. Each NECA figure has its own unique weapons. They're not reusing stuff.
That's why I'm always looking at what other companies are doing. Seeing like
oh, they're going that way. Okay, trying to anticipate what might happen. Me trying to come up with something new. It's like, I want to do something new because I don't want to just follow a trend of another company. So I'm like, okay, well, what is someone now doing? And is there a reason why they're not doing it? Or, oh, I could see this being an emerging trend that other companies are going to follow. Should I follow it as well? Another slippery slope. You just have to, you got to figure it out. You got to, the name of the game is making sure you have more hits than misses. Because it's like, I've had some misses, but I've had way more hits. And that's what you got to do.
I know I don't have any Star Wars Black Series or Marvel Legends to really talk about, how realistic they look. I can say that, this looks realistic all day long, but it's not based on anyone. And this looks like Super Samurai, but he's not based on a real person. He just looks like the original cartoon. And this looks exactly like the comics looked. I know that that people have mixed feelings about the way certain actors are represented.
Lucasfilm and Marvel handle their talent incredibly differently. The Lucasfilm contract with actors was that Lucasfilm owned your likeness rights. Harrison Ford does not have say in the way he looks on an action figure or a backpack or a lunchbox or whatever, 12-inch figure. Lucasfilm gets that call. Marvel, the talent gets the say. We were doing Scarlett Johansson. You have to get Scarlett Johansson's approval, not Marvel's approval.
I tend to stay away from that because in my experience, they've always looked really badly. I will say that I look a lot at the Universal stuff that NECA's doing, the monster stuff outside of Turtles, and they seem to nail it. Those movies, to me, are the gold standard of film. They started film. They have a really special place in my heart. So if you're going to do them, I want you to do them right. And there's so many other companies that are doing Universal monster figures, and I don't like them. I hate the way they look because they don't look realistic to me. I think NECA is killing it on, when you see their Universal Monsters line, it looks exactly like the actors. And I really appreciate that about what they're doing.
I like the Lucasfilm way better. I'm trying to remember what item it was, but it was a Tony Stark figure. It might have been the 2-pack from Infinity War, where it was like, I think it was like Spider-Man and Iron Man. It was Iron Spider and Iron Man. Iron Man had the big energy things behind him. But I had chosen a Robert Downey Jr. head that we already had approval on. And then I submitted it, and in the submission I said, talent has already previously approved this likeness. Well, they sent it to him anyway, and he didn't approve that head sculpt. But you already approved it before. But now all of a sudden you change your mind? So that's where, dealing with the talent's a pain in the ass. But dealing with, just one entity like Lucasfilm was much easier.
My other thing about 6-inch action figures is, I'm going to give you the biggest offender of this. Turtles, from the beginning of Turtle action figures, they give them entirely too many accessories. And that's why when I film for Toy Federation and you see people bringing in their toys and they bring in a lot of completed loose figures, it's rarely Ninja Turtles because it's so hard to complete Ninja Turtles because they come with 40 billion things. If you're going to do that, and what I appreciate about Classified and Action Force is there's a place for everything. They've got, this gun will go here, this knife will go back into here. He's got, he reloads with these that come out of here. This guy's got, several, I think he's got 3, maybe just 2 knives. This one pulls out right here. There's a place for everything. His backpack that I don't have on him, it holds, not this gun, but it holds a different gun on the back that comes off, that it didn't come off on the original 3 3/4 one, but it comes off on this one. I think that's really cool, but I want a spot for everything. You know, this Sewer Samurai is pretty good because, you know, these swords can go here.
Like, I don't like to include multiple rifles because it's like guys don't usually carry multiple rifles.
It was late in the day filming, and I'm interviewing him. I've got the 2 cameras rolling. The main camera, the card ran out. We shot all day, and I just ran out of memory on that card, and that's where the audio is coming from. So it's the secondary camera that's pulling from a shotgun mic that's literally right here next to me, and Bobby's like 5 feet away. So that's why the audio is bad right here, but he did have some important things to say, so I kept it on him.
You usually have your 1 rifle, long gun, your 1 pistol, your sidearm, knife or 2, and whatever. So it's just like, you know, and then there's always, you know, I want to make sure you can fit stuff. So 3 mag holders. So there's a mag in here, and, you know, it holds 3 mags. The grenades, you hold the grenades. The pistol, you hold the pistol, and the suppressor. Like the suppressor, you can fit back here. The knife, you can fit back here. So I always like to make sure that the figure can hold 90% of what it comes for. Now, I just designed a figure that came with 2 rifles because I just wanted it to have 2 rifles. It's a convention exclusive. So I was like, I just wanted to add a little more. You know, but you know, Praetorian comes with two rifles and a pistol. But it's just like there's no standard, but I try to follow a plan in a way.
If you're going to give me everything, give me a place for it, because I want to keep it all together. Because that's what I think about. I've been this way since playing video games. You play like Duke Nukem or Doom or even Legend of Zelda, and he picks up all these weapons, and you hit the start screen to go through all your weapons. It's like, no, there's no way Link is holding 7 different swords and 4 different shields and jars of potions. He's not doing it. He's not. It drives me nuts. It drives me nuts. But I appreciate these lines that are actually, hey, if he's going to have all this, let's have a place for it. The fact that this gun fits down in here and his poles attach on here. I appreciate that. Like, let's make it realistic. Let's put a place for it. Let's make sure we don't lose everything. We don't have to have a plastic bag for 180 different parts. These Universal Monster things, as much as I love them, they come with so much stuff. The only one I really think is like they did it right is the Hunchback Leonardo, because it's a storage shell. It opens up and you can throw everything in there.
Not all fan feedback is good because you're dealing with so many different personalities. So one person might like something someone else likes or isn't a big deal to them. And, you know, 90% of people might love what you do, but then that 10% is the vocal percent that you hear. So you have to be picky with, because if you hear a comment twice or even 5 times, is that a big enough sampling to say it deserves a change or that's what we should do? You know, because it's like just because 5 people say it doesn't necessarily make it accurate. Even if 20 people say it, 20 people isn't your whole production run. So it's trying to figure out like, okay, do they have a point, or is this only a small sampling? That's a game you got to play.
All right, guys, that is kind of my quick overall into 6-inch action figures and who's making them the best. I want to know your comments about articulation, paint deco, what you find important, what you like in a figure. If you think that I should review some other 6-inch action figures, let me know. What do you think about my thoughts on these? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.